One of the best ways to learn is by doing. When you become a flight instructor, you'll see firsthand how students learn, and you'll discover the best methods to effectively convey your vast amount of aviation wisdom. But you don't have to wait until you're a CFI to get a taste of the teaching experience. Welcome to the world of the flight instructor. You're about to receive a glimpse of the pilot training experience from a CFI's point of view. And you never have to leave the comfort and safety of your home or office. You won't earn any money during this journey into the instructor's realm, but you will gain a wealth of knowledge about learning and teaching that you can apply when your goal of being a CFI becomes a reality. Ah, look, here comes your first student now.
I just got here, so I haven't called flight service yet. I'll go hurry and get a briefing now.
No need to rush. We've got plenty of time. You're doing a great job. It's nice to have a student who's always so organized.
Thanks.
She's been really excited about flying lately. Maybe my compliments have helped. My instructor wasn't very good at that. The only time I knew I was doing something right was when he wasn't criticizing me. Kind of like George over there.
Seems like you understand VOR navigation and holds. So next time, let's do approaches.
So, I did all right?
Yeah, let's go schedule for next week.
Wow, George didn't criticize Rick. He must have done okay today.
So are we still gonna do stalls next lesson?
I'd like to try more steep turns next time, and I also want you to review the procedure for slow flight before we try stalls, okay?
I guess I didn't fly so well this time. You usually tell me how well I'm doing.
Normally you do much better, and it did seem like you were a little distracted.
Carl knew she did something wrong today because Liz didn't compliment her like she usually does.
Hey, how many times have I told you to do clearing turns before you practice stalls?
I know, next time.
Where are there going to be a next time if we hit somebody? You understand that? All right.
He's gonna
so,
quit soon if James keeps acting like that.
What are you looking at?
Sorry.
I better mind my own business and double check what I'm doing with Tara. I wonder how well she understands the briefing.
Weather looks good, Bob.
So, you think it's a good day to fly?
Well, he said that the winds are from 180 at 7, and they're not expected to increase, so landings shouldn't be a problem. There are a few scattered clouds at 10,000, and the visibility is more than 10 miles. Looks like good VFR weather to me. He did say something else about a pilot for light chop at 9,000, and I don't understand that part.
Let me take a look. Well, the briefer was talking about a pilot report. He should have told you where, at what time, and what type of airplane made the report. Yeah, see? You have it here. Over the foothills in a 172 about an hour ago. That shouldn't be a problem for our flight.
Okay, so I should go pre-flight then?
Yeah, I'll be out in a couple of minutes.
Okay, we're in 241.
Okay.
I remember when Tara was first learning. She was trying so hard to steer, she missed every call from ground.
241, hold for the Cessna to your left.
241.
Now she doesn't have to think about how to taxi, and she never misses a call.
So, to set up for the descent, first reduce the power to about 1500 RPM.
Cessna 241, you're following traffic at 11 o'clock, entering the downwind. Report that traffic in sight.
Why isn't she doing anything? She must be overwhelmed. I better help her out.
I have the controls. Go ahead and answer the tower.
Okay, you have the controls. Tower, 241, I have the traffic in sight.
I'll do the approach and landing so you can focus on the procedures. Then, I'll handle the radio so you can practice some landings.
How did you feel about the landings today?
The talk we had yesterday really helped. I feel better about being able to correct my mistakes. Plus, I know I can always go around if I need to.
Do you understand what you did on that last landing when you got too slow?
Yeah, I got low and pulled back too much instead of adding power.
Right, you corrected for it, but you added the power a little too late, so the landing was still hard. Just remember, if you're at the right airspeed, pulling back only makes you slower, and you'll lose altitude instead of gaining it. You did a good job today. You're getting much better at stabilizing your approach speed. Next time, I'd like to see you get the power pulled back just a little sooner, so you're already slowed down and starting a descent. Here, I'll beam the numbers.
Okay.
Once you've got the traffic pattern and landings down, you'll be able to solo.
Great.
Call me as soon as you know your schedule next week. We'll need to schedule another lesson as soon as possible so you don't lose anything you've learned today.
I should know this afternoon. I'll call you from work to set up a time. See you later.
Bye.
I hope she schedules another lesson soon, or she'll forget what she's learned today, and we'll have to spend a lot of time reviewing.
Speaking of review, before your next student arrives, let's back up and examine your day so far. You may be surprised at how many different aspects of learning have already been a part of your morning.
I just got here, so I haven't called flight service yet. I'll go hurry and get a briefing now.
According to the theory of behaviorism, Tara's habit of getting a weather briefing before every flight is an example of operant behavior. While it's something Tara does voluntarily, it's still a behavior she developed by responding to instructional cues from you during her previous lessons. Positive reinforcement, like your praise of Tara's actions, is normally the best way to strengthen operant behavior. There are some other, less effective ways to reinforce desired behavior in students. You were witness to some of these methods already this morning. Remember George? He's quick to point out when his students do poorly and is reluctant to offer any praise when they do well. His students' motivation to succeed stems from a desire to avoid criticism. George is practicing negative reinforcement. On the other hand, Liz is always eager to praise, but has a hard time addressing mistakes her students make. She doesn't know it, but she's employing a type of reinforcement known as extinction. It's difficult to use extinction in flight training since oftentimes, for safety reasons, you cannot ignore undesired behavior. Finally, the success of punishment to change behavior is often short-lived, and the negative consequences of this type of reinforcement, such as anxiety, fear, or anger in students, can hinder subsequent learning. Your preparation for Tara's lesson illustrates the concepts of shaping and chaining behaviors. You've already developed or shaped Tara's ability to perform basic maneuvers, ground reference maneuvers, slow flight, and stalls. Today's lesson combines or chains these maneuvers together to assemble the more complex traffic pattern and landing procedures. Learning isn't just a change in outward behavior, but involves changes in thinking, feeling, and understanding. Cognitive theory involves mental processes such as decision-making and problem-solving, which are difficult to observe or measure.
Weather looks good, Bob.
Sometimes you need to be proactive to determine whether your students have learned something.
So, you think it's a good day to fly?
By asking Tara for an explanation of the weather briefing, you ensure she truly understands it.
There are a few scattered clouds at 10,000.
Tara's brain gathers, processes, and stores what you teach her through cognitive information processing. First, she receives information through her senses. Then, her brain's sensory register filters out irrelevant data by a process known as attending. The working memory codes the important information by the process of conscious thought. The long-term memory not only stores information for a lifetime, but also performs the function of reconstructing codes in the brain to form memories. When Tara sorts through all the sensory input and concentrates on what's important, she's using a feature of the sensory register called selective attention. Sometimes this causes her to miss information, such as a radio call, when she's performing a new task. However, now that taxiing has become a habit, Tara's sensory register monitors the activity while letting her think about new input. This level of performance is called automaticity. While flying the traffic pattern, each new experience is processed by Tara's working memory, then sent to her long-term memory for storage. Tara is not as familiar with the traffic pattern as she is with taxiing, so when she doesn't respond to the tower or to your instructions on downwind, it's because she's overloaded. In this case, her sensory register is taking in all the information, but her working memory can't process all the data. Normally, the working memory can only process 5 to 9 items at any given time. Tara was better able to learn when she relinquished the controls to you. Working memory transfers information to long-term memory by two processes: rehearsing and coding. Tara will remember the approach speed by rehearsing, repeating the number until she has it memorized. The process of relating new information to concepts already in memory is referred to as coding. Tara is using her previous experience flying the airplane at slow speeds to help her master the traffic pattern. When you introduced slow flight and stalls in the practice area, you emphasized how these maneuvers apply to approach and landing. Tara's experience during flying lessons is an excellent example of constructivism. This learning concept is based on the idea that individuals construct knowledge through the process of discovery as they experience events and actively seek to understand their environment. When you first mentioned landing practice to Tara, she was hesitant. Her initial perception of landings was affected by her fear of an accident. Perceptions, which occur when meaning is given to sensations, are the basis for all learning. Time spent discussing the aerodynamics of landing and analyzing the risks involved, coupled with extensive slow flight and stall training, has helped Tara overcome her fear and form a more accurate perception of landing. The element of threat or fear that Tara felt about landings is an example of just one of the factors that may affect the ability of your students to form the correct perceptions. Another student, Chuck, is colorblind. A person who has limited abilities with one or more senses perceives differently than someone who doesn't. When basic needs, such as hunger and rest, aren't met, perceptions are altered as well. You need to suggest to Jennifer that she should schedule lessons earlier in the day, since she is typically very tired after work. A student's self-image also has a great influence on the perceptual process. Learning is enhanced when the student's experiences support a positive self-image. Mark is much too hard on himself. You must encourage him more, or he may quit taking lessons. Greg was devastated by poor performance during his last lesson, and he's worried about his ability to fly well enough to pursue a career as a pilot. Letting him know his mistakes are typical and easy to overcome can improve his perceptions of training. Porter doesn't schedule lessons often enough, so her progress has been very slow. Time to experience the learning event and the opportunity to build upon prior knowledge are important in formulating the proper perceptions. One of your primary responsibilities as an instructor is to help your students group perceptions together to form insights. Students can gain insights without your input, but sometimes they reach the wrong conclusions.
Yeah, I got low and pulled back too much instead of adding power.
For example, since climb practice typically involves the use of high power settings, students may assume that gaining altitude can be accomplished solely by pitching up. Tara's initial reaction when she was low on final may have been a result of this perception. However, your discussions and demonstrations, as well as practice of slow flight, help Tara gain the proper insight about operating at slow airspeeds, allowing her to realize her mistake and correct it by adding power. While Tara's flight went well today, you've accomplished little if she doesn't retain the new information and skills she learned. You may not even realize it, but to help Tara remember what was covered, you employed several principles of retention during this lesson. For example, you associated the traffic pattern and landing procedures with other maneuvers she's performed in the past. By practicing several landings in a row, Tara benefited from meaningful repetition. However, while repetition definitely aids retention, some research indicates that 3 or 4 repetitions provide the maximum effect, after which the rate of learning and probability of retention fall off rapidly. You should keep this in mind when planning lessons. During your debriefing, you praised Tara's performance.
You did a good job today. You're getting much better at stabilizing your approach speed.
And offered her encouragement for the next lesson's practice.
Next time, I'd like to see you get the power pulled back just a little sooner, so you're already slowed down and starting a descent. Here, I'll beam the numbers.
Okay.
When you pointed out how this practice leads to the first solo, you provided her with motivation
Once
to
you get
remember.
the traffic pattern and landings down, you'll be able to solo.
Great.
Finally, flight lessons inherently aid recall since they involve learning with all the senses. Even if Tara's brain successfully processed today's experience into long-term memory, the information can be forgotten due to disuse. The more time that passes between the learning event and the attempted retrieval, the more likely the event will be forgotten. The information is still in the brain, but over time, the neural pathways break down between the various cells that store memories. After review and additional practice, the pathways should return. In addition to disuse, there are other reasons that Tara may forget elements of what she learned today. For example, interference occurs when material is forgotten because a separate experience has overshadowed it, or when the learning of similar things has intervened. If Tara were to fly with a friend over the weekend in a different model of airplane, she may confuse some of the procedures with those she learned today. Now that Tara's lesson is completed, you can turn your attention to your next student, Chad.
Okay, thanks, Ken. See you in about 15 minutes.
Hi, Bob.
How's it going, Chad?
Can't complain. Are we going over systems today?
Yeah. Did you get a chance to read your assignment?
Yeah, I read all of Chapter 11, and I read the articles you gave me about turboprop and jet engines. They were pretty interesting.
That's good. Instead of doing ground school, I set it up so we could go over to the hangar to look at a variety of airplanes while they're being worked on.
Sounds great.
Chad's gonna like this. He gets to ask questions and have some hands-on experience.
Hey, Ken.
Hey, Bob. How's it going?
Oh, pretty good.
Good.
I'd like you to meet my student, Chad.
Chad, nice to meet you.
Hi.
Can we take a look at what you're working on?
Well, sure. I just got through repairing the throttle cable on a 172.
What was wrong with it?
Well, the thing broke off during a run-up yesterday, and the thing went to full throttle.
Oh, it's a good thing that happened during run-up. What would have happened if it broke during flight?
Well, basically it did what it was designed to do, and I can show you here with this little carburetor. Typical carburetor has a throttle control lever, and this is where the cable would attach to. You got a throttle plate, and you can see that this would be the idle position, and there's full throttle. When the cable broke, though, it's designed so that spring-loaded goes all the way to full throttle.
That's a good design.
So, do you think you got something out of talking to Ken and looking at the airplanes?
Yeah, it was great to see how everything fit together. I think I understand carburetors, but I have a question about fuel injection.
Here, let's look it up so we can see a diagram.
He likes to think of things as pieces and then put them together to understand the whole. This type of diagram works well for Chad.
See, this might help. It breaks down the injection system. So, if the engine went to full power during flight, what would you do?
Well, if I move the throttle and nothing happens, I'd have to prepare for a no-power landing at the airport. Before I land, I'd have to use the mixture to shut down the engine.
That's good.
He always takes the time to think things out. Oh, our time is almost up.
Let's turn back the clock for a moment to look more closely at your time spent with Chad today. To learn most effectively, students must see a purpose in what they're doing. Chad is intent upon making aviation his career, so he has a different motivation for learning than Tara, who regards flying as a hobby. Understanding these motivations helps you tailor lessons to your students' goals. In addition to being purposeful, several distinct characteristics of learning have become the standard. For example, learning is the result of experience. As an instructor, you're the facilitator that guides students through the learning experiences you create. To be an active process, learning must involve reading, writing, discussing, thinking, and doing. The trip to the maintenance hangar illustrates how many facets there are to learning. This experience involves many types of learning, such as verbal, conceptual, and problem solving. In addition to labeling characteristics of learning, researchers also have identified 6 principles of learning that provide a foundation for basic instructional techniques. You may not have realized it, but during your lesson with Chad, you took advantage of each of these principles. By going over the POH and discussing advanced systems, you effectively prepared Chad to expand his knowledge of systems as he visited the maintenance hangar. Repeating information also serves to increase his retention of the material. This lesson has built upon Chad's interest in systems and his goal of pursuing an aviation career. Discussing troubleshooting scenarios helps him take what he's learning and apply it to the flight environment. Having his questions answered by an AMT ensures Chad learns information correctly the first time. Frequent quizzing about systems during subsequent ground lessons and practicing emergency procedures in flight will keep the material fresh in Chad's mind. Up to this point in your day, you've explored theories that can apply to most any instructional situation and to most any learner. But to truly be an effective teacher, you must do more than apply general learning theories to your instruction. You must see your students as individuals and understand that each of them absorbs information in a unique way. Exploring learning styles and domains can help you accomplish this goal. For example, Chad likes to think of things as pieces and then put them together to understand the whole. This bottom-up strategy is a serialist approach. Tara, on the other hand, is considered a holist since she looks at the overall picture first and then at individual parts. A top-down approach. Chad and Tara's learning styles differ in other respects as well. Chad exhibits left brain dominance. He's verbal, analytical, and objective. The left hemisphere of the brain specializes in linear information processing by identifying and isolating individual parts of a whole. Right brain individuals, like Tara, are more creative, intuitive, and emotional. They may be very good with art or music and can easily put together the big picture. While Chad considers his options, his reflective nature can sometimes cause problems. For example, when taking a test, Chad sometimes cannot finish in time, or he may overanalyze questions and change answers from right to wrong. Tara, on the other hand, is somewhat impulsive. During emergency landing practice, she tends to pick the first field available and overlook more suitable options. In addition to the learning styles that apply to how students process information, there are learning styles based upon the dominant sense involved in the learning process. Auditory, kinesthetic, or visual. Tara learns primarily by listening. Chad by doing. And your next student, Mike, by watching. You can tailor your teaching to accommodate all three of these learning styles.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Bob.
I'll be with you in just a minute. Chad, why don't you schedule the 182 tomorrow at 9?
All right, I'll see you tomorrow.
See ya. So, are you ready to try an ILS today?
Well, I studied the charts you gave me, and I think I understand the procedures, but actually implementing them is going to be a whole nother thing.
We'll give it a shot.
All right.
Let's check out the simulator.
I hope he can apply what he's learned so far. He had a hard time when we first started practicing VOR and NDB approaches.
Your airspeed looks good, Mike. What do you need to do next?
Well, when I hit Cassie, I need to intercept the localizer outbound.
And what altitude do you need to be at?
I should be at 8,000 when I hit Cassie.
Actually, you need to stay at 9,000 until you're done with the procedure turn. Take a look at your approach plate.
I've flown this approach 3 times now, and I still can't seem to stay on altitude.
Well, let's take a break and just practice some altitude and heading changes. Then we'll try this approach again.
He's a little overwhelmed trying to put together all the new procedures. Maybe trying something else for a while will help. I'll give him a pattern to fly that's like the approach.
So, are you ready to try that approach again?
Sure.
I hope practicing those patterns helps.
I feel much better about the approach now.
Yeah, you did great. You held your altitude well that last time, and you stayed on the localizer pretty much the whole way. Let's take a look at what we're going to do tomorrow. I'd like to do the same approach that we shot today, but in the airplane.
Well, when we shoot this approach for real, won't we be getting radar vectors rather than doing the procedure turn?
Yeah, but when we practice it in the airplane, let's do it with the procedure turn first, then we'll ask for vectors to the final.
And then we'll be talking with Denver approach?
Yeah, they have a specific frequency for practice approaches.
Great, I'll see you tomorrow.
See ya. Hello?
Hi, this is Kristen Ossie. We talked last week about flying lessons.
I remember.
Well, I'd like to schedule that intro flight tomorrow if you still have the time.
Sure. Would you like to meet me at the FBO, say, at 1700Z? I'll call flight service and get a briefing for the practice area before we go up.
What?
Stop, rewind, try again.
Meet me at 9 o'clock at the building called TAC Air. It's south of the tower. You'll see signs for it as you drive into the airport. Ask for me at the first counter you see when you walk in the door. There'll be a sign over the counter that says Wings Aviation. I'll check to see if the weather is good for our flight. And if it isn't, I'll give you a call by 8 o'clock.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part. My phone must be cutting out.
I was just saying that I'll check and make sure the weather is okay, and I'll call you by 8 o'clock if it isn't.
That sounds good.
I'll see you tomorrow then.
Okay, thanks. See you tomorrow.
Hey, Bob.
Oh, hey, Brent.
Hey, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
The other day when I was out flying, I noticed the low voltage light come on. I think I did the right thing, but I wanted to check with you. I remember a story you told in class once about a similar situation that had happened to you.
Yeah, well, that was back in my less experienced days, and I actually did the wrong thing at first. We were over the mountains, and I noticed a discharge on the ammeter before I saw the light, so I had no idea how long we were running on battery power. That wasn't the smartest thing to do, so I didn't have any radios by the time we got back to the airport.
Well, I shut everything off once I noticed the light come on, so I did have radios by the time I got back to the airport. But I guess I could have recycled the master switch.
Yeah, you should have done that first. You might have been able to reset the alternator, but it sounds like you handled everything okay.
All right, thanks for your help.
Sure, anytime.
Oops, I'm running behind schedule. I better get going.
Whoa, stop. Before you head to your class, take some time to reflect on the rest of your morning. By examining Mike's lesson in the simulator, you can easily identify the 4 basic levels of learning traditionally included in aviation instructor training. The first level is rote learning. This is the simple memorization of information without the understanding or ability to apply what has been learned. Mike can identify the symbols on the approach chart by rote learning. The next level, understanding, is the ability to explain the how and why of facts. How do the chart symbols apply to flying the approach? Application is the act of putting your knowledge into practical use. Mike uses his knowledge to perform an ILS approach in the simulator. Correlation is associating what has been learned, understood, and applied with previous or subsequent learning. The goal of your instruction is for Mike to associate all the information he's learned about instrument procedures with operating effectively in actual IFR conditions. In addition to the 4 learning levels, psychologists have developed 3 domains of learning: cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. You can create lesson objectives that focus on one or more of these domains. The cognitive domain is the category of learning concerned with knowledge and thought processes, such as studying instrument approach procedures. The psychomotor domain applies to hands-on learning skills, such as pre-flighting an airplane, performing a landing, or flying an instrument approach. The affective domain focuses on feelings, attitudes, personal beliefs, and values. Be aware that students normally experience a learning plateau at some point during their training. In Mike's case, he's trying to master new skills, so he must learn to divide his attention to perform many tasks at the same time. Some students experience a learning plateau if they've reached capability limits or if they misunderstand some aspect of the task. A lack of motivation can also curb learning. If you believe your student has reached a plateau, you may need to try a different teaching method to help increase progress. If having Mike fly the patterns you developed helps him to perform the approach better, a positive transfer of learning has occurred. On the other hand, if previous learning interferes with understanding of the current task, a negative transfer of learning takes place. When you exchange ideas with your students, you've participated in the communication process. Your post-flight discussion with Mike provides a way to look at some of the primary elements involved in this process. During this interaction, you're the source of the communication. Mike is the receiver, and the words and illustrations you use are the symbols that convey the message.
Let's take a look at what we're going to do tomorrow.
Well, when we shoot this approach for real, won't we be getting radar vectors rather than doing the procedure turn?
Yeah, when we practice it in
The
the
feedback
airplane,
Mike provides is very important because it helps you determine whether he understands your message. If Mike doesn't provide you with enough feedback, you should ask for it.
Great, I'll see you tomorrow.
While your discussion with Mike was very productive, your initial conversation with your new student, Kristen, was less effective.
Hello?
Hi, this is Kristen Ossie. We spoke last week about flying lessons.
I remember.
Well, I'd like to schedule that intro flight tomorrow if you still have the time.
Sure. Would you like to meet me at the FBO, say at 1700Z? I'll call flight service and get a briefing for the practice area before we go up.
What?
So what was wrong with this conversation? It was hindered by several barriers to effective communication. As a new student with a lack of aviation experience, Kristen does not understand terms that are second nature to you, such as FBO, Zulu time, or flight service. Also, Kristen misinterpreted some of your words. For example, when you mentioned the briefing for the practice area, she was confused and concluded that you were talking about familiarizing yourself with the subject area you were going to practice on the flight. In addition, meet me at the FBO is too abstract. There are no specifics as to where Kristen should look for you in the building or whether she needs to ask for you at a particular place. Your second attempt at communicating with Kristen was much more effective.
Meet me at 9 o'clock at the building called TAC Air. It's south of the tower. You'll see signs for it as you drive into the airport. Ask for me at the first counter you see when you walk in the door. There'll be a sign over the counter that says Wings Aviation. I'll check to see if the for our flight. If it isn't, I'll get a call by 8 o'clock.
Still, there was a problem with the exchange.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part. My phone must be cutting out.
I was just saying that I'll check
The
and
trouble
make sure
with
the
the
weather
phone
okay.
is an
I'll call you by 8
example of
o'clock if it isn't.
interference.
That sounds
Often,
good.
interference is beyond your direct control.
Okay, thanks. See you tomorrow.
However, there may be times when you can lessen its impact. For example, in the noisy cockpit environment, headsets can eliminate some interference. Communication skills need to be developed, practiced, and continually improved upon. Discussing your own experiences with your students, as you did with Brent, can enhance instructional communication.
Yeah, well, that was back in my less experienced days. I actually did the wrong thing at first. See, we were over the mountains and I noticed a discharge on the ammeter before I saw the light. So I had no idea how long we were running on.
Listening is the most frequently used communication skill, yet it remains the least mastered. You can help your students make the transition from simply hearing to effectively listening by suggesting they take steps such as taking notes or focusing on the main ideas in a discussion.
Well, I shut everything off once I noticed the light come on, so I did have radios by the time I got back to the airport. But I guess I could have recycled the master switch.
Not only do you need to help your students develop effective listening skills, but you need to develop and practice your own listening skills as well. For example, avoid rehearsing answers while listening and don't insist on the last word. From early morning flights to afternoons in the classroom, you've had the opportunity to briefly delve into the flight instructor's universe. You've witnessed the learning process from a perspective that may soon become very familiar to you as a CFI with a full schedule of students. Once you're a full-fledged flight instructor, you'll reap rewards above and beyond the monetary compensation, such as the satisfaction of seeing your students achieve. And likewise, your students will undoubtedly benefit from not only your aviation expertise, but also from your extensive knowledge of how they learn.